going to check in with the technical director, that is, Ray Liepins, to find out, seriously, Ray, what show is this? Is it like 47? What are we? Because I know we were approaching 50, weren't we?
Give me a second.
47.
I need to check.
Yeah.
So, fix and 47, yeah, 47.
47, so we'll be going into show 47. Lovely dance. I can, in a moment, get on with the show. But first of all, guys, just before we start, and before I change into my official Fixer shirt, I just wanted to draw your attention to this. Boom! That is my background, cocking it up. Look at that. Can you see that? Hey? The fake motherfucker's going to redesign that, actually, and put Western Survivor in the thing. I also want to draw your attention to another. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, I need one of them. Not good enough.
Well, hey, I gotta go get a coffee. I got some coffee mugs too. I felt left out.
Get this thing done, right.
What about whilst we're plugging products?
Do it.
Armwrestler shades right there.
You know what?
44% increase
for the record,
everything.
44% protection against UV.
If I come a little closer, you can see clearly an inferior pair of shades. If I wanted a superior set of shades, I would have to go to the birthplace of man, Brisbane. Where the rumour has it that the most manly shades ever created are available right now from Ryan Bowen, ladies and gentlemen.
They are. Armwrestler shades, pound-for-pound armwrestling.com.
Pound-for-pound armwrestling.com. Shades that were crafted from the essence of man. Now then, talk amongst yourselves for a couple of seconds. Just going to go and get my tits out, put on my fit shirt. Biggity bonk, motherfuckers.
Get me tits out. Get me tits out. Oh, man.
I have no idea. Have we started the show or not? Or what? What's going on?
Yeah, I believe we started the show. Yeah. So I'm going to introduce everyone. My name's Ray. We have here Paul Linn representing Lethal Arms and Pound for Pound King Ryan Bowen. I read that now you're the king of back pressure. You're just like you took the side pressure. You're back pressure. Don't come after the hand, man. Come on, that's gonna cause some problems here. But yeah, I woke up today to the 5 posts of back pressure, and I'm like, Ryan is just making trends. I'm like, no one is doing it like Ryan is doing it. Like, yeah, so great job there.
So,
good fun. We'll get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
and we have people, Neil Pickup, yeah.
Some fucking, I don't know.
He's like, he got his tits out.
Read the mug, son. Read the mug.
We just did the intro without you, Neil. It's all good.
Yeah. Have you done it? Are we into the show?
Yeah. We're in the show, mate.
We're official. Lovely darts. So, topics to be covered in Fix episode 47. I think we were going to start. There's been a bit of a wave that's washed over the globe this week, Ryan. And it relates very specifically to the fact that you're breaking world records. We're talking about... hey, come on. For many years, mate, you've been, you know, well, I'll say for many years, for at least 6 months, you've been laughed, right? For making statements about Brisbane.
I finally backed it up. Like, I know you. I know there's a lot of laughter and a lot of banter and good fun. But there was also some just amazing lifts that happened in the last couple of days. The whole back pressure thing just came about. I started it simply by putting a poll in my YouTube channel asking what my followers and subscribers wanted me to do. And back pressure was the overwhelming choice. It was about half the poll voters chose back pressure of the different 4 lifts. So I just went and did a strict back pressure lift. And then Herman Stevens, in reigniting his social media, made a video entitled it, "I'm 10% weaker than Ryan Bowen," or something like that, in back pressure lift. And then from then it's just cascaded, and there's been every man and his dog. And then a good old Uncle John from Uncle John's Armwrestling show, which you should all get over there and subscribe to.
Yeah.
He really was the key. The magic came when Uncle John compiled the list that had been done so far in a very professional manner and said, here's what I've seen. And then he put a bunch of us in a group. He invited us all to do it formally. And then I was like, well, I've got to get Lachlan in on this. I've got to get Marcus in on this. And it's just blown up from there.
Well, come on. Hey.
Yeah.
Once you see people, you see people around the world, and it's all right, it can be anybody. Lavan, pretty manly dude. Gennady Quickvenia, pretty manly dude. Herman Stevens, again, guy with a big reputation in the sport of arm wrestling, but none of these guys have every element covered. None of these guys live in the nucleus. None of these guys live where it all began. Now, for those of you who are new to the fix, guys, and if you're new to the channel and you're new to Ryan Bowen, number one, get over to Ryan Bowen. Pound for pound arm wrestling has been rolling, and there's been a constant message in there, and it's been about the fact that Brisbane happens to be the centre of manliness on the planet. Now, some of you might not know this, and some of you might have fun at it. Ryan said a moment ago, right? This all started by me putting up a poll. I put a poll up on my channel. Well, he got laughed at that poll initially. But I think Ryan is probably feeling like he's just put a poll up the world's ass. Because, ladies and gentlemen, world records being broken. Lachlan Adair broke a world record. Marcus Attirai came close to matching that world record. Both men hailing from the mighty city that is Brisbane. And if you don't know about Brisbane, ladies and gentlemen, check this out.
Where are all the strong lads from, and where are all the freaks? Where's that place that manliness tops out and finally peaks? Legend tells of one place where the men are forged from rocks, ripping out their 3.5s while poking fires with their cocks. I talk of Brisbane. The lads in Brisbane are basically a different breed. They gotta be strong, and they've gotta be smart, and they've gotta have luck and speed. Let's go to Brisbane. I'm going to Brisbane as soon as I can get COVID clear. Jordan Davis lives there, Danny Tess lives out there. Swear it first and then it's shagging and beer. Shagging and beer. Famous for its koala park, there's loads to see and do. The average Brisbane Sheila smashes reps out with a number 2. If you don't believe me, ask my ginger buddy Blue. I only stayed there half a day and my penis visibly grew. Let's go to Brisbane. The lads in Brisbane are basically a different race. Oh, they gotta be strong and they gotta be smart. They gotta have Lachlan's pace. Let's go to Brisbane. It is the place where your message secretly wishes you're from. Danny Chase lives out there. It's the home of the man. The home of the world number one. World number one.
Back in the room.
What can I say? It's very accurate. Every single lyric of that. Hold on.
Well, I did extensive research. I called Eric Risson, who knows everything about. And I said, Eric, because I know him, Eric, tell me a bit about Brisbane. And, you know, it's rare that Eric's speechless, and Eric just went, oh, say, lads. Said, there's only one place, Neil. There's one place, and I think you need to try and get it down in a song. So I figured I'd try to just put a few bits and bobs together. I contacted Craig Vickerland from SATV. Craig, you are the king. Talented dude. Fired me over some musical backing track. You know, I went out and did a few warm-ups. Posh.
I just hope you've got a dedicated playlist to your musical releases. In 5 years' time, we're going to have an album, double album, probably over then, and I want that release on Spotify at least. Just your double album of the Neil Pickup hits. It'll be great.
Hi, Ryan. I am working on a song now. You know Michael Jackson's classic hit "Bad." You remember that?
Yeah.
Well, I've sort of turned that on its head a bit, and this one's about Paul Linn, and it's called "Nice." I'm not joking. That'll be
nice.
Yeah, I'll be rolling nice out as soon as I finish it. You know.
Nice. I'm nice.
So I'm going to be doing.
Me and Giannis just had a conversation yesterday. We talked about back pressure and said like Paul did it. I'm like, Paul is just such a nice guy. He's like, yeah, I never have spoken to him like Giannis said. He's like, but he's very nice. He's looking very nice. I'm like, yes, he does.
I've never spoken to him.
Oh, no.
You know what? I think Uncle John's a bit that way as well. Uncle John's quite a nice dude, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's Canadian, yeah?
Well, apparently, he's an
American.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he moved to Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
I mean, it's
well,
cool.
In today's day and age, it does.
Hey, yeah.
So what was your opinion? I don't want to be the first one to talk about this because anything I say is going to be taken and just torn apart and thrown at the wall. So,
shall I go diving in?
Someone dive in on what you saw with Lachlan and Marcus and all the back pressures.
I mean, theoretically, this should actually go into ROLLIE's corner because he's technical director, but I'm going to take this on initially, and I want to start with the people getting carried away about this being transitioning over into the sport of arm wrestling. Personally speaking, I don't agree that it necessarily does. I really don't. I think there is some carryover because if you've got strength in any environment which may or may not be utilised in the sport, is it beneficial? Yeah. It's not something I would spend a great deal of time doing because in my honest opinion, I've always felt like one of the weaknesses, and this is for me personally, one of the weaknesses that if I ever had a weakness in the sport or I analysed my losses and I looked back and I thought, why did I get my ass kicked there? And I watched it back, which I did a lot, and I watched other good arm wrestlers and why they lost or won. Where you were always at your weakest for me was when you were mono-directional. Okay, so if you were unbelievably committed to one particular area, it's like run the gauntlet. It's like that you're so committed, you're going all in poker, you know what I mean? You are so committed. If you are bumped out of that position, you're doomed. And one of my favourite arm wrestlers, certainly one of my favourites, maybe my favourite arm wrestler, was Svetan Gashevsky. Okay? Now, Svetan Gashevsky is anybody else getting feedback big time? I've got that.
I can hear it. Yeah.
Like a humming noise. Sorry, ladies and gents at home, I really don't know what that is, actually. But, going back to what I was saying, Svetan Gishevsky, arguably my favourite arm wrestler, and one of the things I loved about Svetan's abilities was that he could work his opponent's bone line with incredible effectiveness, real efficiency. And it would be micro movements, and I adopted a lot of that into what I did going forward, and I managed to beat men that I know were much stronger, physically stronger than me, by literally knocking them out of the line. And if you can unsettle a person's alignment, you can beat. It's almost like the effectiveness of a jab in boxing. If you keep the guy off balance to the point where he can never really engage his shots and his timing, you're a hard man to beat. And the same thing works in arm wrestling. If you can keep a man off balance and make it so that they can engage with their technical strength, we've talked about it in the past with just taking a little bit of control away from the hand and wrist, neutralizes exponentially the strength that comes through your opponent's arm and all other movement. Now, when you go for 1 rep max weightlifting, I don't see that there is a direct correlation between that and what you can apply on the table. Why I say that is because I've worked very closely with some phenomenons of strength. Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall, Thor Bjornsson. I can go on and on, Zydrunas Savickas. Men who I know are physically extraordinarily strong, in the top percentile of monsters that have ever drawn breath. And they would be able to, I'm sure that if you were to put Brian Shaw doing the lift that you are talking about, he would do crazy numbers.
Right.
Eddie, his mass and he can do 60 kilo dumbbells.
Neil, I just add one little tiny thing and then you keep talking. Larry Wheels did 49 kilos 2 weeks ago. I was very surprised at how low that was, given how strong Larry is in the strict curl, which suggested to me that the neurological efficiency isn't there for him yet in the top of the curl. So, not necessarily with Brian and that.
In some respects, mate, what you're talking about there, the same soup, but from the opposite angle. When an arm wrestler does that, exactly, they are very economical with they join everything up. So the shoulder, the delt, the lat, the arm, the hand, the wrist, connected. Okay, but it is connected and it is linear. It is maximum linear. I promise you, trust me on this. You get in this position and somebody goes bump and knocks you this way.
Yeah.
You will come down Lakey, pack off cards.
Yeah.
If you're there and you get lights off, you're gone.
Yeah.
I promise. I know. I've been that guy. I've been heavy lifts in an area. You leave yourself exposed to another.
Same thing goes as a fundamental of arm wrestling. If the purpose of back pressure is to threaten on a very broad sense, is to threaten your opponent's wrist flexion. If your back pressure makes your opponent commit maximum effort to their wrist flexion, they are largely neutralized in their ability to go sideways. So I agree, if they can bump you sideways, if their wrist flexion is superior to the back pressure you've got, but if your back pressure is superior to their hand,
I disagree also. I'm going to disagree with that entirely. You neutralize them from a loaded start. From a loaded start. You do not neutralize them from a non-loaded start. Because you could max up. The silver bullet that I used to talk about a lot. You get a guy maxed out, absolutely ready and already tense and in there and you put them. They're gone. It's around direction. Never underestimate
another
direction.
Question, Neil. Another little bait I want to throw into this one. I often talk about with the guys that I'm coaching, center table threat in a static sense. And I say, even in a no-loaded rest grip position, you can intimidate the shit out of your opponent with static strength. You can feel it. If I went into a ref script with Levan Senginishvili, I would sense his static threat, even though he's center table and not moving. I still feel, even in that no-load position, fundamental strength is still valuable. And if you have the table IQ to know how to
Yes, it is.
that.
Yes, it is. Agree. That's what I'm talking about. I don't want to. This is not a black and white area, guys.
Right.
This is not black and white. You cannot make it black and white. It is grey as hell. It's as grey as it gets, okay? What we're talking about here is a situation where I used to get frustrated where people would say, this guy spends hours in the gym curling dumbbells. You don't curl dumbbells in arm wrestling, and they come on with their badge of honour like they're an arm wrestler and they know more than the guy who's strong in the gym. No, you don't. But if you are extremely strong in that functional movement, in curling dumbbells, your arms will become stronger, okay? If you then layer on top of that the understanding of arm wrestling, suddenly you're 3 rungs up the ladder, not one. And that's why we've seen guys come in to the sport like, for example, Dennis. Okay? When Dennis came into the sport, he was not a particularly good arm wrestler. Despite the fact that he'd actually been arm wrestling since he was a 70-kilo kid. Okay? But he wasn't necessarily a good technical arm wrestler. He'd been strength reliant, and as he became stronger, it allowed him to win more, become more engaged in the sport, and then layer technique upon that. And we saw his game evolve. It was a really clear evolution from the early days when he pulled John and was completely bossed to the A1 days when he was becoming at his absolute peak, in my opinion. That was the journey that he went on. And it wasn't necessarily that he was any stronger, but he was stronger at the arm wrestling table because he'd learned to efficiently apply the strength that he already had. And that's where these guys, like you talk about with your 8 men in Brisbane, if you get Khalid's another great example. Yeah. Khalid is a great example. Khalid can't arm wrestle at all, hardly. People say, he's got great natural technique. Yeah, he's got great natural technique for a raw individual. But he's so naturally gifted and naturally strong in areas which carry over to arm wrestling that if you therefore are able to then build upon what he already has in place, he's potentially so much greater than someone, say, like myself, who's actually working with quite poor genetics in some respects, quite a short arm, not a big hand, a lot of things. You've got to look at the individual. And why I respected Svetan so much and why I tried to utilise that kind of style a great deal, because I draw similarities between his physical makeup and attributes and my own. In that what I did have was very, very high explosivity, really fast twitch, I was versatile, so I was pretty level strength in all areas. I joined it up. And that's what you're looking at. If you can get to a situation where you're taking a guy who can perform those lifts very well, and that's going to take us on to our next element. Let Paul and Ray come in and have their bits on it, and you have your bit on it, Ryan, as well. But a lot of the time, remember we'd see those videos that had come out now and again. You'd see some guy on a Scott curl bench or, and he'd say, I got 100, some ridiculous weight on there, right? Yeah, and we used to do a lot of this. We used to go, I could lift very, very heavy on a Scott curl bench. But one of the things I was most proud of was that the range of motion was really good.
Yeah.
Okay. The range. Now, a lot of guys, you'll find that they bone balance it. They just literally move their elbows forward. The frigging thing's most of the weight is going down the bottom. They're not lifting shit. They've got the wrist strapped to one of you or straight, and it's going down the arm. Get out there. Let the thing hang. Don't get me started. Don't get me started on the form. Oh, the form. I've had some crazy videos sent to me with people doing 120 kilos and bullshit. Mate, like that. Well, this is it. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The doors, to Hades' kingdom are wide open because you can come and do things slightly different. But now we're getting over towards that King's move type thing, isn't it? Yeah. Can it be effective or not? Can you make that effective in an arm wrestling match? I don't know. Maybe one guy can and another guy can't, depending on their physical makeup. Don't try to make this black and white. It isn't black and white. Do I feel there's a direct correlation between that specific lift and what individual A to X can do on an arm wrestling table?
I can't, Paul, I want to throw to you and Ray in a second, but I just want to answer that question. Within the data of Brisbane itself, I can confirm that the order of back pressure lift is
question, Ryan. Are all of those individuals arm wrestlers?
Yes.
Okay. So all of those individuals are arm wrestlers, and you're saying that the lift is in line with their current standing in rank.
It is.
So you're saying, hold on.
Was in that level? You with me?
Are you saying that Marcus Satiri you would lose to him in a 6th round?
I think it's highly likely, to be honest. It's highly likely. He's a genuine ready to go. Yes.
He's a giant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless he made very big errors, he's too strong for me.
It's too big. I mean, there is the other week when we were talking about Ben Carroll. Now, you're always drawing this kind of stuff on what you've seen last. I'm talking about Ben Carroll that was in the Zloty tour. Okay.
Yeah.
And Andy Yu that I saw last.
Yeah.
Now, it may be that Ben Carroll's during COVID done absolutely nothing, hasn't focused on it whatsoever, and you've clearly, I can't quantify how much, but you're clearly obsessed with the sport and progressing constantly. Yep. It might be that now we're talking about entirely different criteria. You with me? It's like that's why I said that the Todd Hutchins, Lachlan Adair bets had to be within that 6-month time period, because Lachlan's on the rise. He is on the rise. The man's obsessed with it. He's training like a lunatic, and he's clearly a very strong lad. So he's going to go like this, and he is doing. He's getting better and better. I don't know how much better, but a lot better. Todd, I don't know what Todd's doing. Todd may be very focused, may not, but Todd's a 53-year-old man. Time is not, if you go forward, if they say, Lachlan and Todd meet in another 5 years, towards 60.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, play the game. We're talking about peak Todd. When Toddzilla was at his best, for me, the man is one of the all-time exceptional athletes that I've ever seen at the table. He's mega strong.
No one will deny that. Paul, give it to me. What did you say?
So, I mean, I guess Neil kind of took the perspective of like, is this functional or not? And I am in like 100% agreement that I don't think that the monodirectional lifts are functional to actually arm wrestling, but I do like them engaging towards something. Yeah. I like to gauge. I don't do it often. Like Ryan, that was the first time I did that, which is why I had no idea what I was going to get and did way too many. But I do like them engaging to see where you're at. Like I know you and Todd really adhere to that 1RM just to track progress. Not necessarily. But what's funny is like in my arm wrestling career, I started off like meathead mode doing like, the preacher bench curls like we talked about. Like, and man, I mean, I was so obsessed with that one range of motion that I got to the point where I was doing like the 60 kilogram dumbbells and stuff. And I was so happy with it. But in all actuality, I wasn't a better arm wrestler at that time. I don't touch those weights now, but I feel stronger. But I think really the initial intent with Uncle John and you guys, and I think which is awesome, is just to give us something silly to do and kind of track. And I think that was ace. I do think we kind of we outlasted our welcome on it. People are starting to spoof it, and Mike Aiello had some mean post about it today. So I think people might be sick of it now. We might need to move to something else. But I think it was awesome.
You hit the nail on the head, Paul. It's giving people something to do.
Yeah.
It's better being in the gym doing some silly shit than not being in the gym doing nothing.
Right. And if you're like, let's say you're like a journeyman arm wrestler or like a newer arm wrestler and you have like a number to look at and say like, okay, well, Ryan Bowen's doing this and he did 132 and I did 125. So I feel good about myself. It's not impossible for me to progress. Whether that may be true or not, it still gives, I think, newer guys like a good sense of like, well, man, that whole idea that you're only a few pounds off, especially at the top level, it's a couple pounds of pressure combined in different angles. And you're right there with somebody you might think that you could never beat. And I think that's it's helpful, I think, to the newer guys. And that's why we're getting the influx of the videos.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of the newer guys having a crack, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Ray, what do you think, mate?
Okay. So, this is a lift that we do. Me and Giannis, we do it constantly. I really like this lift with different variations over the hand, over pronation, different variations how you can do this, and it will change everything. Different, from something that's your shoulder height, something that's elbow height, something that's 45-degree angle. So we switch it up. All the time we train with monolifts. To make muscle, to make my elbow flexors stronger, I need to do these exercises, to make them stronger in theory. To connect that to the table, I need to arm wrestle on table. So first I want to say, if like Lachlan did huge weights, and at least 65, maybe 60 looked really good to me. Like I'm like, that's strong. So I hope he's elite. I hope he is really there, and because I know he has side pressure, that's very strong, hand that's very strong, everything that's very strong. Can he really put it together on that high level? That's the only question, and I hope he does, because it looks like it. So like me, like I have never, like, soon as you posted the video, we were having a huge training practice. Yanis calls Lachlan. We're talking on phone right there. Guys, bring out the table. We have 50 kilos. We try. I do 50, and I'm like, that's it. I couldn't do more. So I don't believe I have done more when I have tried. But the thing is, so we like to. So why do I feel this is a good lift? This is a good lift when you. So let's say this is my starting position. So we work from this position. Mm-hmm. If I start to do this, I'm showing strength, not in starting position. I'm showing strength depending on where my arm is either losing position or, some open variation. So my only problem is that, guys are sacrificing technique for PRs where it's not needed.
Correct.
I want to be really strong here. Nothing else really matters, because if I open up, then everything else I'm doing falls apart and it doesn't work. And the other thing is, when we're doing these huge lifts, and because I know I can lift 50 kilos in less than and they're out, when you have 5 seconds to, and you end up here, where in the match you're going to end up? Are you really going to think you're going to be right here? No, you're going to be in a losing position, holding for your dear life for less than a split of a second. Mm-hmm. That's problem. Like, I believe Lachlan could easily take 60 kilos in good angle, and hold it for a few seconds. That would show like that back pressure is on point. That's more showing to me that you can take it, you can control it, and you can hold it in good angles. Like Giannis like to say, good angles.
Right. Yeah.
You made two very good points there, Ray. Sorry, go, Paul.
No, go ahead. I know you're racing.
One of the things that I was a little bit like, that doesn't make sense. Firstly, the sacrifice of the form. I couldn't agree more. Right?
That's exactly like the part that we talked about in like preacher curls. These kind of angles.
It's not so much just the form. It's is that in any way related to the position you would be in arm wrestling? If you're dropped back over it, no, it isn't. It's not even close. But what you could utilise this lift, and I'm sure yourself and Yanis will, is to actually understand, okay, when I'm in this position and I'm applying pressure in this manner, how much weight can I lift effectively?
Right.
Where is the effect? Yeah. How much weight am I moving from dropping my shoulder into it, from raising my shoulder, Now, all of those things allow you to gauge what you're actually able to apply if you remain in a true arm wrestling position, okay? Now, second to that, and I'm going to be a dick and piss everybody off who's a fan of these lifts, right? So the other one, right? If you get to a situation, and trust me, this is true, where you're doing 60, 70 or above, okay, in a static position, if you're not training that move in a strap, you're a dickhead. And why is because when you do that in an actual tournament,
your hand is never going to hold
it. Hand and wrist like a bum.
Yeah.
You will. And even if you don't, they'll let them go. And you will end up in a strap. Yeah. So just applying something that goes over the top of your knuckle on a 1 rep max movement, where you're training a lot of tendon and ligament and stressing that, Number one, it's a one-way ticket to injury street. Number two, it doesn't actually relate to what you would do in an arm wrestling match. If I was training that, and how I used to train with heavy statics and hold positions where I'd move my shape on the table, was actually emulate a strap. So the strap would be in the position that I'm going to feel, and then I can actually find resting spots and transitions on the strap, whether I'm supinated a touch, pronated a touch, or level. Okay? And I can also then, with relative safety, and I say relative safety, you can always get injured, you can always blow a bi-tendon or something, but with relative safety, I can then rev into the weight. So from a static start, where I don't want to show, because my style of arm wrestling was I don't want to show shit, I'm not going in there loading. I'm going in there with nothing on, and then I'm going to blast your ass. Okay? So from a completely dead start, accelerate it, and you've got even points. So you'll take the weight even points. If you start doing that with a high weight, you're going to get hurt. You are going to, it's a matter of time before you get hurt. Now, and put your money where your mouth this time, right? Put your money where your mouth this time. For all the guys out there that are coming in and sending Ryan or anybody else or posting a video where I'm doing 80 kilos, 90 kilos, some stupid. But if I went out, and I'll even do this if people give a shit, but I'd go out and try that lift myself, right? And it'd be but I'll stay really strict and really informed. And I'm sure it'll be a low weight, 30, 40 kilos. I don't know, I haven't never fucking done it, but it won't be heavy. But I'll stay,
smack everyone on the table.
I'll stay informed to see what it is, just to set a precedent that, okay, you don't have to be superhuman, because I'm under no illusions that I'm going to go out after not training for years and suddenly lift the same weight as Levon Saganashvili.
Right. I think that was kind of Herman's intent with his video response, because he's always kind of like, he's not
egotistic.
Yes, and he's not egotistical. But like let's talk about Lachlan a little bit, like because Ray was talking about like is he? If this guy's not elite by now, with being able to work with Jordan and Ryan on the technical aspects, and then having some stronger guys around, and the things that he's doing.
And the weight he's lifting.
If he's not close right now, like I don't even know if we use the word elite, but if he's not like really touching into that, I would be really surprised because of his commitment level. And like I mentioned before, he was kindly enough to send me a program, which I have followed through on now. Now I'm not like, I haven't used it to like peak for something, but I did go through it. And it's obviously a basis of what, a lot of the base of it is what you and Giannis do, Ray. So what you're talking about there and how you train in those mono-directionals, that's how I'm using that program. I never went anywhere near any of those weights. I would train it real tight because this is one of my issues. My bicep blocks and I'm not real strong right here. I am strong right here. So I would train it this way and then I would train it at the strong point, but never did I go here where I did in the videos. So, and that's part of why I don't mind doing it. It's fun to see what kind of weights you can move and everything, but I'm 100% on point with the idea of like using lighter weight, using reps, and also pivoting into the bicep from here to here too, rather than locking it and just tilting. So I've done all those things over the thumb, over the top knuckle, from the lower part of the wrist. I'm doing all of that. And I do think that it that was, before Lachlan gave that to me, I never did any of that, especially on the table. So I do feel like that program has translated to strength on the table as well. Just gauging off of having like Paul Talbot as a training partner now on a weekly basis, and that's a known quantity. Some of these vectors are definitely better for me now and have progressed. So
true story, Paul, right? Just picking up, sorry, Red, just chuck this in, then I don't forget. From what you said there about using the lighter weights and reps, and it can be really effective, particularly when there's a direct correlation between what you're capable of doing because of your physical attributes and what you do at the table. I always remember we were in Yalta in Ukraine, right? At a PAL tournament, and he's not arm wrestling in the competition, but he's there. He's very famous arm wrestler called Taras Ivakin. Remember Ivakin Taras? Yeah. So I go downstairs, had a bit of a swim, whatever. You come out, and he's in the gym, and I just go in there. All right, mate, how are you doing? And we're having a chat. And he didn't speak great English, but we could always sort of correspond very well. I don't know why. It's just one of those weird things. And we were talking about the tournament and what was coming up and this, that, and the other. And I noticed he's training with 15 kilo dumbbells. 15 kilo. And he's just like, just lifting with him, does his set, and then he's just on the bench and he's just all different angles, 15 kilos. And, mate, that guy could top roll just about anybody.
Yep.
And yet he didn't have any ego about him there. He was just working his positions. And I said to him, do you go heavy on the dumbbell? And he went, nah, this heavy enough.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking,
Mike, and obviously it's a stark comparison, but Mike Aiello has always sworn that he's never touched a dumbbell over 60 pounds for any type of curls. And you see somebody who's, 275 and is a hook puller and drag off his bicep, and he doesn't train with anything over 60 pounds. I think there is some validity to that you can. And now that I'm getting older, I'm realizing that all those meathead lifts are hurting me structurally. And
I destroyed my career with them, Paul.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking. Dickhead move.
I know. Yeah.
Poor Ryan.
I'm pretty sure I tore my labrum. I'm pretty sure I'm right there with you, Ryan. It might be even worse. I'm going to get an MRI, just trying to not max out, but rep out 350, on a flat bench, just like 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've been forced to humble myself and go back to sets of 20 and 30.
Ray, you were going to make a point, sorry, when I jumped in there. Sorry.
So these lifts, these back pressure lifts, like Giannis, I don't know if Giannis saw them somewhere doing, but ever since I started arm wrestling, I know he was always doing them. So his philosophy has always been naturally our muscle is going to be strongest at 90-degree angle, relative to
resting length. Resting length.
So right here, somewhere here, it's the strongest position. Giannis says more compact you are, closer you are together, you're stronger because you can do more damage without opening up. Become one. But the problem is the angle doesn't open up. Giannis right here, I believe, is stronger than here.
That's what I need. That's what I want. That's what I'm trying to develop.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we don't work until we're opening up. We work within the boundaries of our technique, and the thing the weights. One of the best examples I can give was Vlad coming in. I don't remember what year, but I let him train, and he is just his hands are so strong that he's doing incredible weights. But the techniques how he is doing, it's it doesn't work together. And he's I remember he had competition. He loses to either Antonovich or Giannis. He's I'm lifting more. And we sat down and I said, if you don't control the weights, in the angles where you are, there's no reason for you to be lifting them. So he put down, it was before 2017, before he won Europeans with both arms. He was just doing everything, and it was still spectacular weight compared to everyone else. But he dropped down about 10-20%, worked his ass off, and when when he was moving 60, like this, 50 was control, whichever lift it is, and for everyone. The problem is the ego. We always think bigger is better, and Taras has great point. You don't want to be strong here. You don't want to be able to hold 15 kilos here, everywhere. You want to be able to hold them everywhere. Makes more sense than just one lift. So this is why stable practice is so important, because you can really outwork all those things together. If you can't, you can do it with weights. You just have to put your ego aside and work on it.
And Taras was never out of that. You know what I mean? If somebody went into a gym, like you said, Paul, you get people going up and saying, you're doing it wrong. Taras was arm wrestling training. You know what I mean?
Right.
He was here, he was there, and that's it. He was in that range everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. Every conceivable spot. And he'd hold it for, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, just everywhere.
Right. Yeah. So there's a good point there, and I kind of just want to pitch it out to the rest of you guys on what all your thoughts are there. Because what you said, Ray, about one of my quests right now is to strengthen being really tight, where my bicep is blocking my arm as far as it can go, and not have that open. To me, that's a weak spot for me. I can contort my setup to put myself in my strongest spot and start from there. So I starting out, I trained with Anthony Snook a lot, and I know you're familiar with Anthony. And he has a very strong open lock. It's like he is beyond 90, and that's his strongest point. And he always said that he trained basically that same back pressure lift from the floor with a loading pin in his lock. And he always, like, he was a proponent of, I start arm wrestling in my lock and I don't lose my lock. Yeah. That way I don't have that negative to get out of balance or lose my bone line. So I don't know if I'm caught between both of them. And that's why, like, when I'm doing these back pressure lifts, I do them tight, real light, and I do them a little bit heavier where I'm strongest. So I don't know what's right or wrong.
There isn't right or wrong. They're both. And I want to give, one advice for everyone who's listening. They want to try this. The setup should always be not in your favor. The problem is when guys take the setup and they set up like this, and the angle of the arm is real bad. And it's very easy to lift something like this when it comes in an angle like this. The same way it goes for, preacher curl lifts. So you always want to set up like a little bit lower than you would take a grip, because you get comfortable from that position. Like, man, no problem anywhere with anyone, you know? So you will have more success with something like that. And I'm not shitting on Lachlan. He's like super strong. We know he's fastest, you know, also he's strongest. Yeah. But, and I believe like the weights that he lifted, I have never seen anyone doing anything like that if it's legit, you know. So, but it would be more transferable, and he knows it. And I know
Lachlan's a very committed, real strength disciple, anyway, let's be honest.
What's that? I want to give, there's a bunch of thoughts on all of this. I mean, I'm going to try to filter through this one by one. I don't disagree with anything that anyone of you three guys have just said. Whoa! There we go. We just lost me. I'm back. My computer disagrees completely. But so the reason I do those lifts or anything like that, there's a bunch of reasons I do those lifts.
It's the first one that allows you to open the plane door. Easier.
Well, I'm not flying anywhere right now, so it's not needed. But one of the honest reasons is I'm just tracking my progress. Arm wrestling is a sport where I have no idea if I'm getting stronger in a quantitative sense. I know that I can feel myself progressing, but 1RMs for me just keep me motivated. They keep me moving forward, and back pressure is one of the fundamentals. So I track that stuff, and I see, and I'm like, shit, I am getting stronger.
Yeah.
I don't do it the other way. I don't do 1RMs to become a better arm wrestler. I'm over here becoming a better arm wrestler, and then I come and check every now and then. Oh, where's my 1RM? So the mentality for me in these lifts is not, this is making me a better arm wrestler. It's just, where am I at? So
perfect.
I take notice of where I am tight. I take notice of where I'm here. I take notice of where I'm open. But I like to know what I can lift in all those positions.
And even if that's just serving for your motivation, Ryan.
Yeah.
As we said earlier, even if that's doing nothing for your arm wrestling, but by doing that, it gives you a blinkers, it gives you a focus, and gets you out of the gym.
I honestly think that the reason I am a good arm wrestler and that I'm continuously progressing as an arm wrestler is because I arm wrestle a fuckload of days per week.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been on the table 6 times, 6 different sessions in the last 4 days, for instance, with 6 different people, 6 different times. And I'll never say no to an arm wrestling session. That's why I'm progressing as an arm wrestler. And like I said, I do like to come and check these things. So I check my 4 fundamentals. I check my wrist flexion. I check my back pressure. I check my elbow connectivity. And I don't so much check pronation because I don't really like any way of doing it. I don't like 1RMs on pronation. Too risky on the wrist. So that's kind of clarifies that. It is a lot of fun as well. You guys know I'm a content creator on the internet, and I'm stuck in a cage that is Australia. I'm not allowed to travel. So this is a great talking point. And as Paul mentioned earlier, it's a good way for newcomers into the sport to gauge their relative strength to people that are established. On that note, I'm a big believer in Brisbane. Surprise, surprise. And I've copped, I mean, you guys know, I have copped so much heat over comments that I've made about Marcus and these lifts just threw me back into the deep water of going, oh, look at this. And I used the term world record. And I did that for the reason that, I know that this is not a strict lift, it's not a competitive lift, it's not a sanction, it's nothing. But it is a popular thing amongst arm wrestlers, particularly Igor Mazarenko. He particularly likes to use this lift for his PAL stars to demonstrate their power. Now, I don't want to get into the physics of pulleys and cables, because just for all the fans out there, please appreciate that physics is a part of this lift. And anyone that's above 75 in a strict lift, there's some physics going on there somewhere, because no one's at 100. No, I don't care what you say, no one's at 100 on this lift. But anyway, it's a lift that Igor loves doing. And when Lachlan and subsequently Marcus inevitably lifted something that was, you can't deny it, it's in the realm of Levan, it's in the realm of Saplinkov, it's in the realm of Gennady. Now, conditions were different, machines were different, angles were different, everything, some were supernetic, some weren't, some picked it up with two hands and then started, some did it from the ground, it was all different. But the point that I'm trying to make out of that in terms of a content side and in terms of an appreciation that Brisbane athletes are dead serious is that those two guys lifted a number that you can't deny is in the realm of all those greats. Now, by no means was I saying Lachlan, and particularly Marcus, by no means am I saying they're competitive on the table with those guys. Lachlan closer than Marcus, clearly, because Marcus is very new in a technical sense. But in a strength sense, and particularly when we go back for everyone who wants to recall me saying there's genetic potential in people like Marcus on par with that of Khaled, I've had quite a few people go, oh, I can see it now. And I'm like, well, yeah, this is what I mean. People are strong. And Marcus is one of those people that is strong in a way.
Isn't there a stat, mate, joking aside, isn't there a stat, oh God, I wish I knew exactly what this was, but there's something around like Samoan stroke Polynesian people and NFL. Like if you, in terms of like the amount of people in the NFL.
Yeah,
per
capita. And it's, I saw it on a TV show. I'm
sure.
Yeah. And it's something ridiculous. Like, let's just say I'm making this up, and if you look this up, guys, you'll find it. But it's something like you're 50% more likely to play as a pro in the NFL if you were of.
I don't know the stat, but it's legitimate, and we're talking about like the amount of those people in the world too. You know what I mean? Like if you're like
I mean, if you watch my video with Marcus, we joke around about the 8 people. Marcus himself will swear black and blue that he knows. He said it's more than 8. There's more than 8 that are genetically bigger than him. He's like, no, I can get 8 to the barbecue on Monday. But when we're talking genetic frame, no, seriously, you guys know it. Like,
I know. It's just so funny. I love it.
It's just true that we're not saying these guys are arm wrestlers. We're saying genetically they have a platform that none of us have, that Khaled doesn't even have. These are guys that are 6'6" and above, that heads twice the size of them.
Let down.
That's what I mean. So all of me saying, like I said, I got ridiculed so much, but I said, guys, there's 8. And I say there's 8 because I see them. Brisbane is it's a high density of Polynesian people living in Brisbane. So I see these people walking down the street every damn day, and they're monsters. They just really are. So, and that's Marcus's.
You carry on, Ryan. I'll be back in a second.
He's getting the t-shirt on. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
8 men in Brisbane. 8 men in Brisbane.
So the whole 8 men in Brisbane thing is, I'll stand by it always, because there are genetic freaks here that particularly come from the Polynesian descent that are just bigger humans. And whenever I say genetic potential, if any of those guys fell in love with the sport to the degree of us here on the channel, they would have more potential than any of us.
For sure. Absolutely. Without an argument. I like it though too, because you go through the explanation of, why you tag world record and 8 men in Brisbane and, your rationale behind that. And it's awesome. And then you also had the tag of Australian Levon. Hey, listen, Ryan's not just an elite arm wrestler. He's an elite troll. He is an elite troll. Yeah. He's playing this with everybody.
Who we on here? Who we on?
I saw Australian Levon. I almost died.
But I'll admit it. Look, I do think about titles. I think about thumbnails. I think about what will get traction the most, and I don't know. I go through seasons where I feel like the old haters becoming fans thing is something that happens eventually. I actually feel like if I look at the comments on those videos that I posted about Lachlan and about Marcus, 90% of the comments are actually incredibly supportive. 90% of them are going, guys, I don't care what you say. These lifts are actually incredible, regardless of if there's a bit of supination, regardless of whether it's a record or not. They're actually phenomenal lifts because we can all go and I'm sure there's been hundreds of arm wrestlers and lots of fans that have gone out there and tried these lifts and didn't post the video because they realised how hard it is.
Yeah.
Before you get off the Brisbane thing, lads, and we take the shine off Brisbane, I just want to draw your attention, all you guys out there watching, just want to draw your attention to the fact that shortly from the Supernatural Strength channel, we will be launching a series of Brisbane shirts, one of which I'm wearing. This puppy dog right here is called the Brisbane Her Dream at least 8 inches edition. And as you can see by the shirt, you can see, there you go, Brisbane. It's where your bird wishes that you were from. And on the back of the shirt, at least 8 inches. Brisbane.
So Brisbane, I don't know, like, and this is where I asked you guys originally about what did you see, and Ray, you talked specifically about Lachlan a bit, and for anyone out there who hasn't heard me say that of Marcus, when Devin Larrick visited in 2018, he gripped up with Marcus, and Devin's words, not mine, Devin's words, at the time he hadn't met Shaq, and he said Marcus is the strongest novice he's ever gripped. The story went that Marcus pulled Devin, and being a novice wasn't able to pin Devin, of course, but then Marcus asked Devin, he said, can I just hold you and you try to pin? And Devin, without disengaging Marcus, couldn't pull through Marcus. And he said, Devin came to me at the end of the night and said, Ryan, you need to foster the love of the sport in this guy over here because he's the strongest novice I've ever felt. Devin's words, and Devin will still back that up to this day. You ask him, he'll agree. He'll say, Marcus, if he falls in love, will be the number one in Australia by a long way. And it's just because of that genetic potential. So at the end of the day, call me an elite troll. I'll take that title.
Well, listen,
my mission has never changed. It's to become an elite arm wrestler myself and to empower people to make a career. And the more we
there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
Tell him that.
What I was going, the reality of it is, though, I mean, you pretty much single-handedly put Australia where it is. Not just through social media, but also through like the facilitation of clubs and practice and attention. So pretty much everybody in Australia and anybody who's hating on you from Australia has something wrong with them, I think, because you're kind of bearing the burden for everybody else. You're willing to put yourself out there, say some crazy stuff every once in a while, take a bunch of flack, but yet everybody around you gets to shine. You know what I mean? Also. So, I mean,
I'm very excited personally by the fact that in 1 year, right, when the rest of the world is closed pretty much to sport, you could conceivably end up with a situation where various world records are broken by people from Brisbane. First of all, the land speed record, Lachlan Adair.
Everything in fingers I'm having a lot of success with.
A lot of success with fingers in 20. How's that going for you in 2021, mate? You're still getting the same success with your fingers?
don't chalk with that. You oil up. That's the secret.
All right, can I ask one last thing about the back pressure thing before we put it to bed?
Okay, and that'll wrap up this episode, and then we'll get on with the very next episode.
I don't want to digress too much, but I've had a couple people message me, Simon Barishow being one of them, about the planning of the elbow and pivoting up. And kind of what I always called that was up pressure. Mm-hmm. Are we actually testing back pressure or are we testing up pressure? Because in reality, back pressure should involve the lat. And it's more than one plane, probably.
So for me, I want to answer that. I think it's kind of semantics. I think that what some people call this back pressure, some people call combination back pressure, some people call just the drag back pressure. The reason I isolated the bicep and the brachialis for this lift was simply because it's consistent. As soon as you add the drag, it gets messy. As soon as the weight gets heavy, you use a bit more lat and a bit less bicep. So for the purpose of my own, again, remembering the reason I do this was for myself to measure my own progress. I can't measure progress accurately if I'm combining. It's too messy. So this was clean. So I personally call that rising back pressure and this dragging back pressure. So
that's just something I got hit a bunch of questions with.
I mean, if you were training for the sport of arm wrestling, without sort of dwelling on it too long, if you were training for application within the sport of arm wrestling, it would be a more accurate representation if you used the drag. As long as the height of your hand didn't drop, you could get to a situation where you were, I don't know, there was a plane, maybe you tie a string. So let's say you had a string that was tied from a consistent point in front of you to a consistent point behind you, and your knuckle stayed on line with the string, never dropped below or above,
and your elbow comes.
Now that's one of the prerequisites. Accurate representation of both.
I tried to simplify it and write down 4 rules for everyone who wanted to have a go at this, and I said neutral grip. I said 90 degrees between the forearm and the cable as a start position, and I said elbow planted, but I agree with that. And my 4th one was the fist must not drop in height. If your fist drops in height at any point in time, it's a no lift. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, just before we end this show, and we've been on here for quite a while now, I do have a little story to tell everybody. Okay, I don't know whether anybody saw this in the news only the other day, but apparently there was a guy the other day and he was on a kayak. Is anybody familiar with like a sea kayak?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this dude's on a sea kayak, right, just off the coast of Canada. And he's going along with his sea kayak, and all of a sudden he's aware of a bit of a disturbance behind him, so he turns round. An enormous great white shark has been tracking him. And he thinks, this ain't good. Anyway, he starts thinking, I need to get in. He's a few miles offshore. I need to get in. I need to get in quite quickly. This is not a good situation. The shark's not doing anything too bad, but it starts to become a bit more aggressive. It starts to chase the kayak a bit, and he starts to pick up his pace. And he starts jettisoning bits of things, throwing things over, throwing some of his tackle over, throwing some of his weights over, throwing some of his stuff to try and throw the shark off. Nothing is working. The shark's tracking him, and it's becoming increasingly aggressive. Anyway, just so happened that he had in his top pocket some Western Survivor beef jerky.
My background's messing it up.
Background always messes up.
Oh no.
It doesn't matter for the purpose of this. So he throws out some Western Survivor beef jerky, and 2 minutes go by. The shark's still on him, and then all of a sudden, the shark turns away, and he's gone. And legend has it that that's because after that 2 minutes, the full flavour of the Western Survivor beef jerky had started to spread out into the ocean. And the shark couldn't resist, motherfuckers.
The shark put it in his cheek. It put it in his cheek, and he let it sit there for 2 minutes.
Yeah. And you two should try that. Myself and the lads can all attest to the fact. You bang a bit of that bad boy.
Yeah.
Behind you.
Honestly, guys, let me add a bit of Ryan Bowen marketing to this one. Guys, if you are fans of the Fix, if you're fans of any of the individual channels on here, I'm going to ask you a favour. seriously, go right now, Western Survivor. Go to their website and buy a damn packet of jerky. You will not regret it. It is amazing. Right. And it will help empower this show to keep doing what we do. So guys, hit us up with that favor. Do it for us.
Arm wrestler owned and controlled. Adam Vandal. Western Survivor. The very best. And joking aside,
it's
I
good.
promise, you put your comments in the link below. Some people have sent me messages saying, you bought this just to support the channel. It really is the best beef jerky in the world. It actually is the best beef jerky in the world. It's weird. Tastes different. Tastes amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, Western Survivor. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. We're over an hour into this episode of The Fix. Remember, support Brisbane. It's where your bird you were from. Ladies and gents, I want to say a massive thanks to co-hosts on the show. First of all, the very sexy ROLLIE, Raimonds Liepins in the mother fluffing house. The White Oak, he's nice. He's Paulton.
Nice, he's very nice, yeah.
It's very nice.
Very nice, yeah.
And last but not least, hailing from the centre of man that is Brisbane town, or city even, it's Ryan, good with his fingers, Bowen. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been the fat lad Neil Pickup in the mother fluffing house, and until we see you next time here on the Supernatural Strength channel, take it easy, peeps.
Very nice, so much.
Very nice.
What grabs your eyes on that, if anything?